anyway. It's meeting is live streamed. Got it. Hi, Val.
Hey.
So terrific. We're live streaming.
I need to change one document on my computer screen, and then I'll share it and see if you all have any trouble seeing it.
Okay. And Val, could I in the background send you, I took a picture of 218 Main Street today.
So did Camilla. Did you see those?
Oh, Camilla did as well?
Yeah, she sent a couple on by email.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't get on email yet. So no need for me to do that then if she's got them or you've got them.
She has them. I haven't saved them to my computer yet. I mean, if I wasn't sure if you wanted to actually, because have you talked to Zach?
No. Is there something?
Yeah, I mentioned that Zach was acting chair at that meeting, at that planning board meeting.
Golly, I'm sorry. Did I miss that email? I don't remember.
Maybe. I mean, it's
I'm
very.
sorry.
Yeah, he was.
To do.
He chaired.
He did chair. Okay. Is there something I should know or get back to him about?
Well, what I said to you, I think in my email was that if John had chaired, he probably would have gotten in touch with you right after the meeting to say that that they were looking for HPC input. But Zach might not have known that.
Oh, okay.
To get in touch. So
Okay.
I heard through Autumn, she sent me a note to say that planning board was looking for HPC consult, which is the one I forwarded to you.
Okay. You know what? That I do recognize that part of it, Val. I don't know that I caught the Zach part. I'm sorry. I have this
It's okay.
habit of reading emails quickly.
No, it's okay. I'm going to need to pay attention to my screen because it looks like all the tabs I'd saved are now gone. You must have updated. So.
All right. So I'll leave it.
Yeah. Let me just do that and then share my screen and we can continue on.
And Bill, do you happen to know anything about how the village is thinking about face-to-face meetings?
Yes, we've decided to, since the governor extended to April 15th, I believe, we'll likely go to that point. Our first meeting is April 27th. One of the issues that we're having is a space to hold the meetings. The fire department's in the middle of a move, or not in the middle, but beginning a move soon. And the fire department's receiving plenty of new furniture and file cabinets and whatnot. So it's really filling up the existing space. So as soon as the fire department can move into the new firehouse, which could be mid-April to early May, then we can commandeer that meeting room that we've used in the past for the public.
Hey, that's exciting that they're that close to being able to move in. I've watched the progress with great interest. And it's actually shaping up to be a very beautiful building, I think.
Yeah, it is. And of course, as you all know, it's been taking a little bit longer than we had anticipated due to everything going on in our world. But operationally, we're looking, May, but at least being able to move stuff into the new facility mid-April, if not sooner.
That's great. Great news. And much credit to you, I know, as somebody who's shepherded the project through.
Yes. Well, thank you. And there's a lot of people involved in shepherding it, but yeah.
No, I know, but I also know you're one of them.
Yeah.
But Bill, I'm curious, was the location makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm thinking that, kind of operationally, it's going to cut response time to throughway emergencies pretty significantly. Was that a big part of the thinking?
Well, the largest part of the thinking was where could we build something that size and scale? We looked at several spaces or places around the village, but the fire company, which is a separate entity from the fire department, owned that property. So the fire company has worked in arrangement with the village so that the village has the building, the fire company owns the land. So the location, and by some other coincidence too, the town police and courts have moved in just north of us in the fire department, and we have the rescue squad there. So we have essentially an emergency services corridor where our volunteers and paid law enforcement are all in one couple of block radius. So
I know
it's kind of nice.
Yeah, it really shaped up well. It is sort of a almost like a campus or a campus for security services, public
Yeah,
service.
yeah. We hope to. We're in discussions about putting solar PVs on the roof because of the exposure to the south. So that's in development, but I forget how many kilowatts we'll be able to do, but substantial amount to help generate some green electricity on the roof. And
I think that's absolutely great.
And then, as you may recall, it's a building that's built with energy efficiency in mind, from insulation to windows, to just total design.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I mean, everything about it is great. And we're going to realize some downtown space too, which is a bonus.
Yeah, the village will eventually make good use of where the fire department is.
Yeah. Hey, terrific. Well, thanks. We almost just got your report. So I guess it's time to start the meeting. Let me just maybe give people another minute or two. Sue was on the call and then dropped off. Let me just give her a text to see.
Are you all seeing my screen?
Yes, Val. Yeah, we are.
Thanks.
I'm just going to mute myself and give Sue a call to see what happened to her connection. We do have a quorum, but just minimally. So let me, if you don't mind, I'm just going to mute and then be back, and I'll start the meeting as soon as I'm back.
Camilla, the photos you sent today by email, I did not save them to my screen, shall I? I mean, or do you have them available? I could let you share the screen.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure I know how to
Yeah, I get it.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Do you think they're important to the meeting tonight?
I don't know. I'm not sure how. I mean, I'm not sure if we are going to discuss that project in detail yet.
No, I'm not sure either.
So probably it will be more beneficial for our next meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But just in case, I can maybe email them to everyone else, and then.
That's a good thought.
Okay, I will do that now.
I think Tom said he took one or two as well.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Sorry that took a minute, but Sue's going to log out and try back in. She was actually seeing and hearing us, but her mute and video buttons weren't responding. So more computer mysteries. Camilla and Steve, good evening to you both.
Hello.
It is nice to see images of both of you. Val, I was just overhearing what you and Camilla were talking about. I think it actually would be useful to see those photos, and I took a couple as well. So when we get to that part of the meeting, maybe one of us can screen share, or if it's easier, I could shoot my photos over to you right now, Val.
I just
you
got
haven't
some.
seen Camilla's yet,
Oh.
right?
I just
got
sent them
Camilla's.
to everyone.
You did,
Very
okay.
helpful.
Okay, so maybe when we get there, I will do the same.
All
And I'll
right,
just-
Camilla, can you pick like one or two that you think would be most helpful?
I think they are quite similar to each other, except for one of them, which has the building to the left
Okay.
of the house in question. But I think
Okay.
they are.
Sue, hi. Looks like
Hi.
it worked. It worked.
Okay, it still says I'm owner, but I'm not touching anything.
Oh, interesting. I wondered who that was because I saw owner among the participants and I
Yeah.
didn't know it was you.
I'm not gonna
Well,
touch it.
Own it, Sue. That's all I can say. Camille, you sent them out by email, which means when we
Yes.
get to that point in the meeting, we can have a look. I think they could be helpful.
I just downloaded them. I'm not sure how well the JPEG will show on my screen, but I will give it a whirl.
Okay, thank you, Val. That's good.
And
everybody, why don't we?
And I can't.
I'm sorry, Camilla.
I'm sorry. I when I emailed the pictures, I messed up my Zoom screen and I can't get back to it. I don't know what I did.
Can you look
Oh.
for the little camera icon down at the bottom of your screen?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Okay.
We're
Thank
seeing
you.
and hearing
Sorry.
you.
Oh my God.
Great tech support, Val.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
The blind leading the blind.
It
I
worked.
think we're all. Well, let's open this meeting, shall we? So I'm seeing Ava. Ava, by any chance, is that actually Shane?
Hi, I'm sitting on this meeting because I'm doing a project for my journalism class about a New Paltz board meeting.
Okay, absolutely. Well, welcome, Ava.
Thank you.
You're welcome to bust in and ask questions if you need to.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
We're normally a much smoother operation, but Zoom just puts so many obstacles in the way. So let's declare this meeting open. It is by my clock 7:10. So I'm opening the Historic Preservation Commission meeting of the Village of New Paltz on Monday, the 21st of March, 7:10 p.m. Warm welcome to everybody, including Ava. Ava, that official opening is part of kind of the formality of a public meeting. So now we are recording the meeting, and our secretary Valerie will be taking minutes from this point forward, just for your information. Everybody, our first item is approval of minutes, and I think everybody has seen them. Were there any corrections or suggestions there? Does that silence imply somebody'd like to move to accept them?
I've so moved the minutes be accepted from February.
Got it. So I think that's Steve proposing, Camilla seconding. All those in favor of accepting?
Hi.
Good.
Aye.
Val, thank you. These are great, as always. What a
Sure.
relief.
No worries. Thank you.
Yeah. I think that we will maybe hold off till 7:15 on this one. Bill, would you be able to give us a quick update from the village board?
Sure. previously we talked about in-person meetings, and we hope to be able to do that at the end of May. But most recently, we've started to discuss the possibility, strictly a possibility, of having food trucks in the village of New Paltz. These would either be in public spaces like streets and parks, but also possibility of on private property where an applicant would present their plans for a food truck. We're looking at a maximum at this time of 4. The positioning of these trucks would not be near an existing establishment that serves food or serves packaged food. There's a distance right now of 100 feet. I've introduced this in the hopes that we could bring a little something else to our village. You see them quite a bit these days. They're quite popular up and down the Hudson Valley, and it'll take some time to iron things out, figure out the best way of making it fit in our village. But hopefully, we'll be able to bring some to our community. The village did listen to the proposal from Mannheim News at the last meeting. So that's ongoing. There's a couple of steps yet before we can, I suppose, approve and then bring it back to the planning board. And beyond that, that's really all I have at the moment.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Anybody have a question for Bill?
Not a question, but good work on food trucks. I think the measured approach will pay off, and it would be nice to see some food trucks in the village.
Yeah, thank you. It's early days, of course, and they offer an opportunity for people to get sort of their foot in on the ground floor of a restaurant business, and they offer a variety of foods, of course, that may not be present in the village or town at this time.
Bill, I know there was some conversation about the Firehouse earlier before we opened the meeting. Do you want anything in the minutes about that?
Just that, the fire company is working hard to move in as soon as the facility is ready for that. I think the office side will be ready before the truck side, if you will. So we're looking possibly being operational in early to mid-May.
Great, thank you.
I was commenting, everybody, that I think the building is shaping up really well, and so is the result that we're actually getting a kind of campus of public services there that I think is going to work really well. So it's a great report. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Why don't we, could I just squeeze in a couple of things before 7:15 is pretty much here, so we'll get to that in just a second.
I don't see Dana yet, though, honey. Tom.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen her yet either. So I was going to just knock off a couple of things.
Sure.
Give a couple of minutes. One was I happened to look at the Facebook page for IFO a couple of weeks ago, I guess it was. And it was actually because I wanted to order food, and I was sort of looking around for their menu, and I came upon their Facebook page. And I have to say, it was really heartwarming to see how proudly they publicized and displayed our award. I think it really, really meant something to them to be recognized as a partner in preservation. I mean, I think we always get a nice reception when we give that award, but this year felt, I don't know, especially good, partly because it was a little bit COVID related. Our award was based a little bit on, a COVID response that we appreciated. So I just feel really good about the Partners in Preservation program. I think that at some point I would love to share it with other commissions, because it just seems to create a lot of goodwill for very little cost or hassle. And I just think it has the effect of bringing people on board with the mission and recognizing people who are just doing good things. So that's one. The other thing on my informal list, our next meeting is April 18th. So Bill, if I understood correctly, that's 3 days after the governor's extension.
That's right.
But it may be that we don't actually have space yet, right? So basically we don't know quite yet.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll just keep everybody posted, but April 18th looks like it could go either way. Let's hope that by May we're back to face-to-face meetings, which I think we all miss a great deal. And then the last thing is, I was hoping that we would welcome Shane Reedy to this meeting, and I think he's intending to come, maybe just held up at work. But Shane is a really interesting guy who is an architect. He lives on Wirtz, and I just think that it would be great to see if he would like to be involved in the HPC in some capacity. So I invited him to sit in on a meeting. And Val provided some examples of COAs of years past, months and years past, that would help him kind of fill out the picture of what we do. I think that's all I have in the informal way. I might just draw your attention really quickly to item 10, that we're on budget. And Camilla, is there anything you wanted to update us on the art show, item 7 or item 8?
Not really. I sent the mailing list out. I sent the message about the art show to our mailing list and posted it on Facebook. And I also corrected, remember we were talking about correcting on our Facebook page the HPC's role as preserving architectural heritage, not just historic heritage. I took care of that as well, but nothing is new on the art show at the moment.
Great. Thank you. That's all absolutely to the good. It is going on 7:20, and I think probably we should go to our first application. This is HPC 2201, and it's at 65 Huguenot Street. Dina Du Bois is looking to replace some decking and add some slotted vertical slat fencing to below the unit, and that would be matching some slatting that's already there. I hope everybody had a chance to look at the application. It seems to me absolutely straightforward, but I did point out to Dina that it is an exterior change. So she supplied, I think, a very good application. We have already had confirmation from Historic Huguenot Street that they have no objections. And we can maybe just, as Val is doing, show us what is intended. So that's the side porch that currently has the vertical slatting. And what they're looking to do, and this will feel pretty familiar, Steve, I think, is replace the decking. And underneath that decking, match up the slatted siding so that that under area is covered and matches what you see to the left of this photo. Thank you, Val. That's perfect.
Sure. And I did get a note from Dina that she's spoken to Daryl Green, who's her contractor, and he has specified locust, I think was the wood. I have another version of the application that has those details, and I wasn't able to get my hands on it right away before the meeting, but I have copied and pasted it into the application so that for building department purposes, they'll have those details.
Okay. And sorry, that was locust wood on the decking?
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
I'll
That's
see if
not-
I can pull up Dina's message and read it into the record.
Okay. In the meantime, could I invite any comments or observations?
Seems entirely appropriate to me.
Basically like for like. And
Yep.
locust wood is really, really hard. It's like indestructible.
Okay, interesting. I never really thought much about it.
Interesting.
Camilla, do you have any thoughts?
No, I think it's going to be beneficial for the integrity of the building as well, to replace the rotted
Yeah.
out backboards, and it's going to benefit the house.
I think so. Val, if you don't mind pulling down to the picture that shows the two decks, I think it's the last of the photos. One of the things that, yeah, this would be great. One of the things that I think is a really significant improvement is that we're going to match up those bays underneath with similar slatting. So I see it as an improvement on really quite a beautiful backyard area.
Shall I read the note from Daryl?
Yes, please.
As per our conversation earlier regarding the back deck, here's what is needed. All 120 square feet of decking to be replaced with minimum 5/4 locust planks, approximately 6 inches wide. All railings and posts to be replaced, possibly with locust or pressure treated wood painted. Deck framing is mostly okay. Some new framing may be needed after removing the old decking. Posts and lattice underneath are okay. Existing steps mostly okay. They were done about 8 years ago.
Great.
So that's the extent of Daryl's input.
Well, I think that's useful to know.
I have copied and pasted it into the application.
Perfect. Is there further discussion? How about a motion to approve as submitted?
I move that HPC 2201 be approved.
Okay, move.
I'll second.
Val, you can sort that one out. That looked like an absolute tie. Okay.
I will let Sue have it this time.
We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor of approval as submitted?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous, Val.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Are
that's-
we expecting Chris tonight?
I was. I didn't hear otherwise.
Neither did I. Okay,
Yeah.
good to know. Thank you.
Yep. So approved as submitted, and a nice example of, trying to expedite, as Camilla said, this is, I'm sorry, Sue said this, essentially it's like for like, but there's just enough difference that we do actually have to do it, but let's not put people through any more than we have to with something that's rear facing, clearly thoughtful in terms of materials and design. So I will make sure to compliment Dina on a very helpful application. Let's see. Looks like Brian Keenan has joined us. Brian, good evening to you.
Brian's due at about 7:45, I believe, so he might be stepped away from the mic.
I actually think he's there.
Okay.
Brian, are you seeing and hearing us? Let's see.
How's that? Better?
Yep, perfect.
Okay.
Hi, Brian.
Brian, I just wanted to ask, was Andrew planning to come? I think I remember that he's not able to.
No, I have Kim Hoover, my architect, because that's a design issue we're talking about.
Okay, so I think maybe we should stick with our originally scheduled 7:45. I was going to bump you up if if
Yeah, I love
nobody else
that.
has come. But
Yeah.
yeah, hang tight if you would, please, and we
Sure.
will.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
You got it. Thanks.
Thanks. And let's see. Then let's everybody move to HPC 2202. This is on behalf of Claire Hussein of Runa, 10 Plattekill Avenue. The proposal is to construct an 8 by 18 foot pergola to the right of the main door of her restaurant. And I'm seeing Paul G has jumped in. Paul, are you related to this application?
Yes, I'm the garden designer landscaper.
Okay, terrific. Welcome.
Thank
Could we
you.
get your last name just for Val's
Yes.
record?
It's Goldbacher, Goldbacher.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Pleasure.
Everyone, this too looks like, you know, a pretty straightforward proposal. I think Claire's thinking, and Paul, correct me if I'm misstating this, but she was concerned that there is very little shaded space at the front of the house, and in certain seasons, it's really a fight to get some shade. So this is a solution that you've come up with. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, great. Does everybody feel familiar with the design proposal, or is there anything we should go over before opening discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, Paul, there's your name staring at me.
That's okay.
I think I did see that, but that was last week or even the week before.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll just jump in. This looks fine to me. I presume that you've thought about, that you and Claire have thought about the effect of sunlight on the inside of the restaurant, which is always kind of the trade-off with a pergola, particularly if those vines grow up. And Claire's comfortable. She's aware that that's going to dim the inside a bit.
Yes, and that's kind of part of the idea why the top will be somewhat open like that. It won't have a permanent roof or anything.
Right.
Potentially, we could put bamboo on top or something like that, but the idea is for it to be very light and to encourage the growth of plants.
Yeah.
What kind of plants are you planning? Are you planning on like grapes that will climb, or what do you envision?
Probably not grapes, because they might attract birds and whatnot. A non-invasive vine, something that can just soften the lines of the pergola. We haven't really proposed anything yet. That's the easy part. It's just getting the pergola in, and then we can start to encourage something that obviously will grow well in the sun.
Mm-hmm. You should have a lot of choices given that location.
Yes.
Steve happens to have some experience with pergolas. Do you have any advice you wanted just to share freely, Steve?
No, the dimensions look fine. I don't know. Ours is open, and we have one that we've built on Prospect Street, and another we have permitting for to build here at our current house. Grapes have been very successful on Prospect Streit. So, but you're right. It doesn't really attract birds, but in the autumn it attracts raccoons. So they love the grapes.
Oh, okay.
But which is not what you would want a parade of at a restaurant.
Correct, and perhaps if the grapes fall, they'll cause some additional maintenance.
Yeah.
Yes, they do require some cleaning. So as you described, a simple vine might be far more effective.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds great. Camilla and Sue, comments or questions?
Claire mentioned that the pergola will be freestanding, which I think is a nice idea, so that there won't be any damage to the existing structure. That's a welcome aspect of the project. I was just wondering if, I know bamboo is light, lightweight, but maybe it's not really a historically accurate material to use right next to an old structure. This is just, I mean, it's going to be covered up with plants eventually and won't be visible. And I don't want to be nitpicking or anything like that. It just occurred to me that maybe there are some other possibilities other than bamboo.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely discuss that. I mean, we can even add more wood to it, but the whole idea is to keep it very light. And we might not even need to do a top. I think this will create a pretty good filter. If they're spaced every foot, I think that might do the trick.
And I just have another question. Since the ground there is a bit sloping, and there will have to be some grading work to be done, will there be a need for any kind of retaining wall, or how is that going to work?
There would be cement footers for the posts. The grading is going to have to stay as it is. You really can't change that too much because of the lay of the land, so to speak. So there'll be I think it's about a foot of a slope, because the way the land is pitched. Yes. So it would be some, obviously level. So we're going to just work as close as we possibly can with the grade of the land, the drive, or the stones, basically.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Sue, is there anything you wanted to add? Or
no, I think Camilla answered, or raised the questions that I had about the bamboo being not necessarily historically appropriate for that location, but no, that makes sense. It's the only thing I have.
I feel like there is a little bit of uncertainty about, what the effect of these rafters will be. I would agree that maybe bamboo doesn't end up being the solution, but I think that we personally, I trust Claire. And Claire, welcome to the call, by the way. I saw you just came in.
Thank you. Sorry I was late.
Not at all. I take some comfort and confidence in knowing that you're running a business and it's a beautiful structure. And so obviously it's in your interest to make this look good as well. And so maybe we can just leave that bamboo question as something really to think about, and maybe consider some alternatives if in the end it doesn't look historically accurate. I had for myself just two thoughts, one of which I think, Claire, I shared with you, and it has to do with the 4x4 posts. In my experience, something 18 feet wide with 4x4 posts tends to make the posts look kind of spindly and not so nice. And this is just a pure aesthetic rather than historical thing. I think it's quite possible, given what Paul said about vines, that maybe that's not going to be a problem. But one thing that you might think about is either going up to 6x6, potentially even 4x6 with the 6 facing the street, just to give a little bit more mass. The other thing that can look very nice, and it does involve some expense though, is maybe just cladding 4x4s with some nice cedar, which is a beautiful wood and trims up really nicely. Paul, you've probably done a million jobs this way, but cedar planking can, be really nice, and it's definitely an indigenous wood. So that's
to give it more substance or some more heft.
Yeah, I'll be honest. The image that I always pay attention, and I hope I'm not offending anybody, but sort of bad suburban tract homes that have a front porch, but then the design is so cheaply done that the porch posts just don't look like they can hold up the porch. Of course they do, but they're they're disproportionate. And I think with the 8-dimension, this wouldn't come into play for the 8-dimension, but 18 starts to be enough space that I think you might want to experiment with 6 inches to the street.
Mhm.
I mean, I have no objection to that. I mean, Paul and myself can chat further, Paul, right? And,
Yeah.
if it increases the expenses by a little bit, then, so be it. Obviously, as you all know on the committee that, having met with you all or most of you before, I want to be as accommodating and, forthcoming with anything I do, to changing the frontage of everything. But, that was in the initial plan. So we'll, Paul and myself can definitely chat further.
Yeah, I think that I'm comfortable leaving it at that, Claire, because I'm not even positive. I think with vines growing, this may be a it'll
take some time. Sorry to interrupt. It will take some time for the vines, I suppose. So, in the meantime, we do still want it to, like you say, not look spindly.
Yeah, that's the only word I can come up with.
Mhm.
I don't think that you'd be in a mess. I think it would be a very, very minor cost difference. The difference between 6x6 and 4x4 isn't that much in the scope of a project like this.
It's not. It's pretty minimal.
And then the other thing I just wanted to raise is to get a little sense of detail what you intend to do with those rafter ends, because you might have a nice opportunity to match or complement exposed rafter tails in the structure. And I didn't get a chance to go by and see what's there.
We can, I can design a scroll or something on the ends that would be decorative. That would be a simple touch.
Yeah.
Talking about the front rafter.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
And,
I can come up with a sketch of something that could, work very nice.
I think so. And I think, Claire, you would immediately see the difference between something that's just sort of cut off at 45 or something near that, or even 90.
Yeah.
And something that has a little decoration.
Absolutely. That ties in with the overall theme of everything. Sure.
Yeah. And you may have, and this is why I wish I'd gotten by to see this detail, but you may actually have a nice prototype in the building or at number 12 that would just give you your design.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good idea, Paul. We can take a look at, like the ends on the porch maybe. And
Perfect.
We can mimic something. Well, I can do something very similar so it kind of carries through.
Right. I think you'll be happy you did, just as a general. And Paul, you probably know, this is not a huge job. It's a jigsaw, or you could even sometimes sawzall depending on the.
Yeah, that's pretty easy. It can be cut once it's either before or after it's installed.
Yeah.
Preferably before.
Yeah, on the ground, always better.
Yes.
But Claire, it looks like a really nice idea, and I think it will achieve what you're intending.
I'm so happy that Paul and Paul's come up with some lovely plans for the rest of the space as far as landscaping. So we're super excited about, the overall look of the space, from, and a big thing for Paul was, what is it going to look like from the Plattekill Avenue, looking up. And as lovely as the planters were, I, as a business owner, as opposed to aesthetically, the copper beech and the planters with the overgrown, arches, sometimes impeded people's kind of line of sight as to, even though it has restaurant in big black letters on a white background, surprisingly, it doesn't necessarily always draw attention. So I think, this plan that Paul's come up with, I hope, will be a lot more enticing and have some really nice curb appeal for people as they walk by.
Yeah, you're seeing it exactly as we are, I think. And, you know, obviously it's to the advantage of the restaurant that it has curb appeal, because people walk into restaurants on the basis of what restaurants look like. Yeah.
Mhm.
Colleagues, do we have any other observations or questions? Okay. Do we feel moved to approve?
Somebody else can move this time.
I moved them.
Okay, Camilla has moved.
Yes.
Do we have a second?
I could
Steve is-
second.
Steve is seconding. Okay. Colleagues, just before we vote, I'm comfortable leaving the question of 4x4 versus 6x6 versus 4x6 up to Paul and Claire. I think I've made my point, and I'm not even sure my point pertains, but I'm comfortable leaving that as an option. Is everybody also comfortable with that versus mandating?
Yes,
That
I
sounds
am.
fine.
Okay, good. And then we've got the second question about whether bamboo is going to end up looking the way you really want it to or not. I'm also personally comfortable leaving that as a decision that you can make once you really see it in place. Is everybody comfortable with that?
I am. I agree.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Are we ready to vote, colleagues? So all those in favor of approval?
Aye.
Yeah.
Okay. Terrific.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
Claire, thank you very much. And Paul, thanks for
You're
joining the
welcome.
meeting.
Pleasure.
Claire, pleasure to meet you as well. Thank you for a good
Likewise.
design, and good luck with the project. Please feel free to call on us. You know, our work isn't done. I mean, if you feel like you want another set of eyes, if you want to mock up a 4x4 next to a 6x6, or, you know, just call on us. We live in the village, and somebody can come down and give you another set of eyes.
Good to know. I mean, and also, if we stick with the 4x4 and decide to add the fascia to it, that'll just give us the extra bulk. So that's a good possible scenario.
Right. That's actually something that can be done after the fact if you want to just clad it.
And I'll work on a detail for the a scroll for the end. I think would be very nice. I like that recommendation.
Yeah, I think you'd be happy with that.
I do too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Before we let you go, Claire, I just wanted to get a quick report. So Camilla was your consultant on the paint, and everything's okay on that score?
Yes, I'm just waiting to get with my the contractor that's doing the painting. He's backlogged a little bit, so he's super detail orientated. So I see no problems. Ordering. We were pretty much on the same page as far as the colors with the swatches that Camilla kindly brought over. So I'm not sure of the ETA of job start. Again, the schedules of contractors these days, but it will be. It's just a matter of refreshing the house. There's no change whatsoever. The only thing that you will see, and it will again be painted, is the lattice on the base of the house. It's all rotted and needs updating. So initially you will see that going up as white, and then it gets painted to the color of the blind, not the blinds. Camilla, what were they? The shutters. The shutters. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. That sounds great. And,
so I just don't want there to be any sort of fearful moments for y'all when you walk by the house and you see the ugly Lowe's lattice being nailed to the base of the house. It shall not be. I mean, I think you know me at this point that I'm
Right.
trying to keep it all in theme and aesthetically it's all matching with landmarking, and also that's super important to me anyway. So there just may be a period of time where it looks a little bit garish.
Well, not to worry. Believe me, there are things that worry us more.
I figured.
Yeah. I did want to ask Claire, did I remember just at the point that I think you bought the house or bought the restaurant? Now I'm back to the restaurant for a moment. Agnes recovered the historic plaque, the oval plaque. Did we ever get that to you, or do we still have it?
I never received that.
Okay, why don't we make that an early summer project? I'll be glad to install that for you.
Okay.
And we may want to see the pergola go up to decide where it's best placed, but somewhere we have that plaque that inexplicably was thrown out at some point. Agnes pulled it out of a.
That would be lovely. Yeah, because it's on the house. So
right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Terrific. Well, thank you very much. Good luck with the projects. And Paul, very nice to meet you. Please, it's a very sincere offer. If there's ever a point where you think we can be helpful with an aesthetic decision, just reach out and we'll do our best to get there right away.
Most definitely. And if you see people working out there, feel free to stop by and introduce yourself.
Okay, that's a great idea. Great idea.
Thank you.
Okay, terrific.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
Have a good evening. Good luck
Thanks,
with the
Million.
project.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Take care, folks. Nice meeting you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Right, I'm just going to switch my light on. Be right there. Oh, thank you, Val. That's great. Let us go on to our consultation with Brian Keenan concerning PB 2203 at 5 Platicle. I also wanted to take the occasion to welcome you, Kim Hoover, has been before us several times. Kim, nice to see you again. And Shane has just joined us. Shane, hello. I think Shane's there. Can you hear us?
Hey, yes. Sorry about that. I was trying to find the mute button. How's everybody doing?
Great. It's nice to have you join us. Feel free to go to video if you want, or you can just stay, please just join the meeting, whatever way you're comfortable. So everyone, this is not a certificate for appropriateness, but it's a consultation that was requested by the planning board. Brian, welcome back to the meeting. Can you please Val will do the graphics, but could you walk us through what your newest thinking is on the plan?
Sure, I'll give you an overview and then I'll turn it over to Kim where she can go over the details. I did get the final approval for the existing footprint. And when I get in there with my contractor, we realized that we might have some structural issues, and those issues we would be losing space on the interior. I also realized that I needed larger than I didn't need, but I really feel that I would be better served with larger bathrooms instead of 2 single stall for the number of seats. And I wanted the kitchen to be a little bit bigger. So if I did those things with the existing footprint, it would be a seasonal restaurant. And for the amount of financial commitment that property needs, it just wouldn't make sense for me to do that. So we're moving the front wall out. I think it's 12 feet, I want to say. Kim would know.
It's 16.
16. So that's pretty much why we're here, but I know Kim can give you more details.
Okay.
Yeah, so
what you want to look at first, okay?
Sure. Can we do you have one of the renderings? That might be just the easiest.
Okay, that's what I've got here, but there's several.
Okay.
Are you seeing them?
I don't see them, but
You don't?
Oh,
Does any,
Kim,
do
what do you
others
have
see
on your?
them? Do others see them?
Yes, I see them.
Yes.
Okay.
okay. Well, I know the building, so I can. Yeah, so in order to meet Brian's request, and that's all generally the same. The building itself, the idea was still sort of to give a nod to the classic service station because this would be all new brick veneer and a totally new roof. So we want to keep that simple gable roof and not make it all roof. If that makes sense. And so where I played around with the slopes and that kind of thing, the walls themselves would also come up a little bit. Let me see if I can just see that real quick.
Kim, if you have an image that you want to share, please let me know.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to look at the elevation. The elevation is about 19 feet now, so it's a couple feet higher than it is existing, but it's still the same shape roof. And then the idea being to have 2 overhead doors just like before. That all stays the same. Whitewash brick is all the same. And then we just, instead of doing that large canopy that we're going to do originally with no addition, we're just having a small reverse gable over the front door.
Mm-hmm.
So the bulk of it is the same. It's just sort of a little bit bigger and allows Brian to keep it running year round. So it's not closed up during the winter and things like that.
Yeah. That's very clear. Kim, I wondered, are those overhead doors actual functional overhead doors? Do they roll up?
Yes, yeah, they'll be, so in the rendering, it's the finish would be like a aluminum finish, like just a gray, a silver gray, and very subtle with the whitewash brick. And so the overhead doors would be all glass with the the horizontal when it rolls up. So this could be opened up during the summertime, just like in the original design. And then I added a couple of windows on the south side, because at least in that direction, you get to see some trees, and not really a parking lot behind. And then it doesn't show it on the rendering. It didn't make it on the rendering, but there is an emergency exit also that I'm required to put it on that side too. So. Okay.
You also may get some nice solar gain from those windows.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'd be really nice in the summer or in the winter time, get some sun in there.
Yeah. Great, thanks. So 16 feet is the extension. And the width of the doors, Kim, do you remember?
I will double check. I think they're 14.
Okay.
Yeah, they're 14 wide and 8 feet high.
Got it.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you
even
very
in
much.
sorry?
I just said thanks.
Okay, I was going to say in the wintertime, the code does require us to make them, they do have to be insulated. So even in the wintertime, just having that will let a lot of sun into the space too, for lunchtime and that kind of thing.
You actually anticipated one of my questions, whether you can get insulated garage doors.
Yeah, because it's very trendy right now. So it got itself into the energy code, which is good.
Brian, I just wanted to say this isn't really anything except a compliment. The times that I've been in restaurants that use this principle of garage doors that can be open in the nice weather, boy, does it create a really nice indoor-outdoor feeling. I think it's a great move. So, yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. Colleagues, any observations? Basically, our role here is to report back responses, suggestions, or concerns to the planning board.
I don't see any conflicts. I mean, I can understand your business model and needing some additional space for kitchen and front of house and for tables. So I think this works in the added square footage pretty effectively.
Yeah, it's the same number of tables. I'm not adding tables. I'm just moving some of them inside, which will actually help with the noise too.
Mhm. Good point. Camilla, responses or questions?
My question is that is the rendering in proportion with the building next to the proposed changes? I mean, how much will it stick out, or you know, the facades of the two buildings? What
can answer
the
that, Ken.
relationship will be with each
It's
other?
not, they're not coming out the same amount. The restaurant will be set back, I want to say less than 10 feet, but that whole area in front will be enclosed with the fencing, landscaping, and patio.
Is there any need to show the site plans or the other drawings?
Sue, is there anything you wanted to see or to add?
No, I think the greenery will help, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions.
Okay. I don't actually think I need to see anything more, but does anybody? Let's not rush anything.
No.
So Kim and Brian, I think our role here is simply to report back to the planning board that we have no objections on aesthetic grounds. That's pretty much what they've asked us to do. I personally think it's probably a really good, I mean, Brian, you've obviously thought about this from the business end, but I think even from the design end, it probably makes sense to keep those tables in. We're not Miami after all. And, you know, the season is sometimes shorter than you want. So I think it looks really nice. I guess I would personally encourage you to think about, in the view that we're seeing now, seems to me lots of space to get some softening landscaping. That could be just planter pots or, you know, banks of plantings that would just soften that exterior area. But I think
we have extensive landscaping
Yeah.
in the plants.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to show the site plan, which SP1 has the landscaping plan on it. And there are plants right around the perimeter of it. And you may be able to do some seasonal plantings.
There we are.
Yeah.
I think maybe, is it this one? I'm sorry, I can't, with the way my screen is, I can't see what the number of the
I
plan
can't see
is.
it either.
You said SP1? Okay.
Yeah, it should say it's on the right-hand side. It's just
Yeah, I know. My screen is blocked by people's faces at this point on the right-hand side of the screen.
Now I can see it.
Nobody really ever thought Zoom would be the idea for doing this. I'm afraid.
You can take my word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, I'm looking at SP3, so I guess I have to go back. There we go.
Yep. Yeah, that was it, Val.
Yeah, well, this is SP1.
And I think if you just slide to the right,
Yeah.
you will see the plants named.
move faces again.
Or you can use the slider bar.
Yeah, I know, but the slider was hidden.
Oh, I see. Okay. But yeah, that is definitely extensive. It'll be great. Brian, I look forward to dining there. I mean, that just looks like a really nice downtown spot.
Can't wait to get started, hopefully soon.
I hope you can. Are you pretty confident that you can get the materials you need? Is there any supply chain stuff?
You know, some of them, I think we might have some issues, but if there's a delay, then I guess we'll figure something out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not bad. I mean, we it's not like we have a gazillion windows we put in.
Right.
That's a biggie right now. It's windows.
Yeah, that's a help. Great. Colleagues, we don't technically need a vote, but I just want to make sure I'm representing everybody's feelings that we are comfortable with this plan. We have no objection, and we can report that to the planning board. Good all around, Sue?
Yes.
I am.
Okay.
Mhm.
I will make sure to copy everybody. It's going to be a very brief. I actually don't have any suggestions. I think it's a really good plan. So, great. Well, Brian and Kim, you'll get copies of that brief memo. I'm not sure it'll happen tonight, but it'll happen in the next 24 to 48 hours, and I'll make sure that you're copied. Okay.
Right.
Awesome. Thanks. You guys have been great. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Well, it's so nice to work from good plans and to know what the plan is. I mean it very sincerely, Brian. I look forward to having a meal there. Maybe a beer.
Come ask for me. I'll be living there for the next few years.
Yeah, right. and living the life too. But
Yeah.
okay. Well, thanks again.
Great.
Have a good
Thanks so
evening.
much. Okay. Take care.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Ava, I wanted just to take a second. Do you have a question, Ava? Is there anything I can or we can help you understand, or?
No questions yet. I'm pretty interested in seeing how all this works, but
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, you've probably got the sense that we're really just an aesthetic and design board, right? So we're not checking about code compliance or anything else. That's the planning board, and our role is really purely aesthetic. But I hope you can also see that we're trying not to be confrontational. We're trying to be helpful, and that is just core to what we're doing. Feel free to ask a question if it comes up. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Shane, I wanted to welcome you properly. Thank you so much for joining the meeting. It's really great to see you, and to think about the possibility that you might become a part of this in some way.
Yeah, and sorry guys, I'm joined late, but but promise that won't happen again. For some reason in my Google Calendar, it had it on as 8. So that's it's my bad. But yeah, no, this is exciting, and I've been, we've been talking, Tom. I've been watching a lot of the meetings on YouTube retroactively, since I moved to New Paltz, and no, I very much appreciate what you guys do, and I like the approach very much, and yeah, what else is there to say? I mean, we all love New Paltz, and that's why we're here, and I think it's great that everybody here just cares about protecting the the architectural dignity to a lot of our beautiful buildings, and hopefully I contribute, even if it's a small amount to that, or yeah, just excited to be here, and yeah, looking forward to being any kind of help that I can be, and yeah, thank you so much for inviting me, Tom.
Oh gosh, yeah, thank you for coming. I think we're all in agreement. It's a wonderful connection. Shane, I'll just really quickly catch you up on the bits that you missed, which really wasn't that much. So at 7:15, we went over HPC 2201, which was that redecking of a back deck plus the addition of vertical fencing or screening. that was a really straightforward thing. And it took about 5, maybe 10 minutes to talk it through. And so that's going to get approved. The owners will hear tonight, and maybe tonight or tomorrow, I will just personally send a message to thank them for a really clear application that allowed us, in their absence, really to, understand what it was and approve it, because it was really straightforward. Made definitely easier by the fact that it was rear facing. And so the nuances of what the decking is made of, which turns out to be locust, which is great. We wouldn't really have had much to say if they had decided that they wanted a composite in the back. So that was one. And then we considered HPC 2202, which is a pergola at the face of the Runa restaurant on Plattekill. And that too, I thought, went really smoothly. It's just a basic open pergola. I think we had a couple of good suggestions for how they might make sure that the design is something they're really happy with. But ultimately, we have dealt with the applicant before, and she's interested in the mission that we're interested in. And so we left a couple of things to their discretion and offered, to come by and look at things with them if they find themselves deciding between options. So that's, I think, fairly typical of how things roll. It's pretty unusual that, we aren't seen as helpful, I think. The other thing is that Bill Murray, who's on the call now, is our liaison with the village board, and he just updated us on a couple of things, probably most notably the discussion around possible food trucks in New Paltz, which many of us think is a pretty cool step forward, and the progress on the Firehouse, which is coming down to maybe being usable within the next month to 6 weeks or so, at least administratively. And then thirdly, it looks like we're not sure if we're going to be live in April or not. The governor is permitting non-face-to-face meetings through April 15th, but then there's a problem with available space in the village hall. So we'll just, I guess, sometime in April, we'll find out. And otherwise, I think we're kind of caught up to other business part B, which is where I am on the agenda. I'll just really quickly go through what I know about these things. I don't actually have much to report on Mannheim Muse. I did reach out to the owners concerning that mansard question. I think we all understood that that can wait, and they're actually at a much more basic level of getting approval, including a variance. So I expect at some point they're going to get back to us with some ideas and some designs. But we don't have anything this week, or this month rather. Lemon Squeeze, I have not heard anything further. Val, did you happen to hear anything from the planning board meeting?
No, I think I saw it on one of their agendas. Might have probably within the last month, but I don't recall that there was anything that would be new to us.
No, I think we've pretty much had our say on that. The one thing that I remembered is that the planning board was sort of twisting around some nuance of ownership, that I think the deed did not match the applicant's name, or there was just some kind of administrative thing that.
Yeah, it was Ulster County that needed to have the correct ownership information.
That was it, yeah. However, we've also been asked to give some thoughts on the design for the professional building at 218 Maine. And I thought that that might be worth some discussion. Val, were you able to get those photos in a place that you could?
Let me see if I can make them visible. Hold on a second.
And Shane, I sort of feel like this would be a great place to have your input too, because what's proposed here is designed by an architect. we don't have anybody representing the applicant tonight, but we're being asked to give some thoughts to the planning board as they consider the application.
All right, I downloaded 2 of Camilla's photos. Can you tell me if you can see them? I'm not seeing them on YouTube yet.
Not yet.
No, not yet.
Okay, I'm not quite sure. I think I probably have to copy the images into a document that I can post in a PDF form. I can try to do that quickly. If you want, Tom, I want to move on to something else in the meantime.
Okay, that would be fine. We'll circle back to 218 Maine. So the B2 with parts A and B, I just wanted to share some comments. So the open letter to the community went out 2 issues ago in Hudson Valley 1. I checked the following week. There it is. Steve's got it. It's essentially the letter that we approved. Tim had some pretty significant changes that he wanted to make, and I also took some advice from the town HPC that very nicely, very quickly responded with some suggestions that were good. And then I conferred with Peter Fairweather, who's a town planner and a friend of mine, and he also had some good suggestions. So the letter ended up being a fusion of our comments and the comments of a couple of others who have a stake in it. But I think the letter worked well. I did not see any comments the following week in the paper. I don't think I missed anything.
I didn't see
I
them
looked,
either. I looked as well.
Yeah, I didn't see them.
So, I guess that's good in one way, that we're not, creating a firestorm of opposition. I don't think it necessarily means that everybody who's a stakeholder even noticed the letter or knows where to look for it. So I was going to ask Camilla, it has not gone up on our Facebook page yet, has it?
Not yet, no. I wanted to wait until the final wording has been
Okay.
done. So I can.
Oh, it looks like progress, Val, I think.
I can't tell what you're seeing, but I'm working in front of things that I don't know if they're visible or not.
It's just
I thought we were going to get something, but it looks more like a blank screen.
Yeah, I'm still copying and pasting photos. Hold on.
Okay. Camilla, I think it would be time to share it with the community via Facebook. I don't see any reason not to. Does anybody?
No.
Okay. And I think once that happens, then we should encourage the village to link their Facebook page to our Facebook page so that we start to just let it disseminate. And I think that on the strength of that, we should approach the village board again with a very specific proposal that that's the district that we want and that it would be governed by the same procedures that we use on Huguenot Street. Does anybody see a better way forward or any objections to that?
No, it sounds good.
Sue and Steve?
I think that's a good idea. No,
Steve, are
keep
you
it-
comfortable?
I think it's a good idea, and I think the having it in the paper as a preview, as a test run, I think that should there be objections from the village, one can say, well, this is not the be all and end all venues to publicize it, but we have, the opinions have been shared with the community, and there's no one has objected.
Right, right.
It's a
I mean,
great
of course,
start.
there will also be public hearings, and there should be. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right that that's the ultimate good faith effort to publicize. And I think we also have a number of people who, if needed, would write letters in favor. So, we could kind of work that channel if needed. One local architect took it upon himself to say it was a great letter and he's fully in support. And I think there'll be, half dozen or a dozen people who would be willing do that if needed.
Great.
Okay, so everybody, why don't I do that? Camilla, please, if you would go ahead and put the letter up on Facebook.
Sure, I will just email you to make sure I have the correct version of the letter.
Sure. Yeah. It's not freely available on HV1, right? It's subscribers only, or is that section?
I think it's subscribers only.
I think it's subscribers.
Okay.
Only the almanac is what's free.
Yeah, I think you're right. So yeah, sure. That makes sense, Camilla. We can just get you the final version.
Thank you.
Okay. And I wanted to add one other thing. I talked to the mayor, who was kind of surprised that we can tap only village residents for membership on the HPC. And so we had a conversation about possibly widening that in some way. Kind of parallel to that, and maybe in lieu of that, I suggested that we might also develop a consultant board to the HPC that we could call on as needed in a tough case. I can imagine that something like the project at the pit would be something that we would really want to get some other eyes and ears on. And so I did some asking around, and so far I've managed to get a commitment from a local builder. George Seafree said he would be glad to serve on that consulting body. Peter Fairweather, the town planner, would be willing to, and I was going to suggest that I reach out to Alan Ross, the architect, and ask if he would serve in that capacity. And I think the idea would be they don't have to come to meetings, they don't have to read our minutes, they don't have to do anything except help us when we throw up a need for help. And I thought that might be a way to get a little more expertise on board, but not, weigh people down with a lot of things that maybe they don't want to sign on to. Does that seem like a useful thing?
I think so. I think that's a great idea, Tom.
I do too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. I think it deepens the bench. That's can only be an asset.
Mm-hmm.
That's a nice metaphor. I mean, I think it does deepen the bench, and there may be times when we don't need architectural advice so much as a builder to tell us, in some authoritative way that that's not going to cost more and therefore you can ask for it, or whatever it might be, but just a very ad hoc kind of basis. If that sounds good, then I'm going to make that more concrete to the mayor and just say we will have this body that doesn't really have any legal status, but can help us out in significant ways. Yeah. Val, looks like you've got pictures. So could everybody go back to item B1C, which is the professional building proposal at 218 Maine. Did everybody have a chance to look at the design that was proposed on the Google Docs? So I guess my starting point is, I think this is a pretty undistinguished building, honestly. I hope I'm not offending anybody's friend, but I think the baseline is pretty low here. And I think personally, there are elements of that new design that are better. And I'll just say the one thing that I'm just not sure of is there's a lot of glass. And I just don't necessarily see a way that fits into Main Street. But I really offer that more as an observation or a question than anything. So maybe we can just go around and see what people's responses were to this current house and to the proposal.
Well, to your point, Tom, with the glass frontage of the proposed building, it looks more like like a ski chalet in Colorado or something. I had the same first impression that it might not be a regionally appropriate building.
I'm not sure how appropriate it is to have so much glass in a professional building, because you can almost guarantee that all the windows are going to get covered up. You know, people don't, you know, you don't want to, that you've lost that privacy with all those windows for a professional building. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can't really dictate that use, but I don't know if that was thought about. Or maybe there's some idea that that's the reception area and they want visibility. I don't really know.
But
It faces north where there is the least sunlight, but it doesn't really make advantage of the sunlight. And yeah, I don't know, it is almost like a ski chalet. It's just
it is.
It's a little, I mean, just from that vantage, it's just, you know, I don't know, and privacy would be something. If you're going to frost the glass, that you've got an awful lot of glass to frost, you could have other effects. Yeah, and if it's open, then you have blinds, and you know, so it seems to be one design element that doesn't really match everything else to my casual eye, but I think it could be a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're within the region of something that would improve that part of Main Street. Again, I don't think we're looking at anything that really distinguishes itself on Main Street. There is a bit of an architectural mishmash there. I mean, you've got that crazy building that we never had any control over, the Medusa Antiques and the sushi bar or the sushi restaurant. So you've got that with, on both sides, fairly traditional gabled structures. This one has a front gable. It is kind of a mishmash, but I'm with Camilla and Sue and Steve that, you know, there's a lot of glass. I'm just not sure that it's in the idiom. There is an interesting, the Alfandre building, you know, also adds to the eclectic quality. That's just over the town line, but it's well within, you know, the immediate neighborhood. And that has some really interesting design elements to it, but it doesn't have a wall of glass.
If this were designed as for example, house of worship, it might look stunning.
Interesting point. Yeah, I kind of got the house of worship vibe. Val, you don't by any chance have that design open, do you?
No, I mean, I can probably get it. I really wasn't sure how much discussion you might want to have about that tonight, but let me see what I can do with the Google Doc.
Okay. I was going to say, Paul, you're looking, I don't really know what our task is because it kind of came to us almost indirectly, but I was kind of thinking that maybe the smartest thing is to invite the applicants to a meeting where, you know, we can talk about these concerns, hear their reasons for the design, because we're kind of just getting this cold. And, you know, just have a conversation about why they think it's appropriate. I think there are elements of the design that are definitely an improvement on what's there. So I'm kind of hopeful that this is going to be a win for Main Street. Shane, I'm curious, did you get a chance to click through to the Google Docs?
Yeah, I was I was looking at it earlier. One of the things I didn't really understand was the kind of the logic to the board and battens on the outside, because, for example, like the window trims, it was kind of hard to tell in the rendering, but it looks like it might be just another piece of the same size vertical battens, and then there's these horizontal pieces that kind of break up each floor, but they also kind of seem to be like the same size battens as the vertical pieces. which, like, I mean, that could be fine, but I'm just wondering, what kind of thought was put into the trim, because, the board and bend, it could be interesting, but I'm just not sure it's that well developed right now. I feel like there's kind of a missed opportunity to, maybe have a more interesting window surround, or if you notice where the vertical bends meet each window, there's not the same margins necessarily, like around, I feel like with this, a few simple tweaks, I mean, not telling them what to do, but there might be some small changes that might make the board and bend trim a lot more interesting, or maybe a little bit of variation might help just kind of really kind of dress up the outside of the building, or at least just make that, I feel like there's just a little bit of a missed opportunity with the way the trim is designed right now.
Okay.
That was one of my initial thoughts.
I'm really listening to you. If we able to get that up, I don't remember really responding to that, but I'm sure it would be good to look at it. So I'm going to take a note there that, trim ?
Yeah, I mean, because I feel like usually, again, not that they have to follow any strict precedents or anything like that, but I feel like usually when you see those horizontal bands breaking up the floors, there's an opportunity to have, like a different type of trim scenario, either like above or below that delineation, or something a little different. It just feels like the way it was drawn was almost like a hatch that was kind of superimposed, instead of really thinking about how the way the trim reacted to windows and from floor to floor or things like that. But it's close. I feel like with a few tweaks, it could really be a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's look at that.
Like, if you look at that east elevation, the way that each window, like if you think about each window like sitting in like a grid of the vertical bends, there's not really a lot of logic to the way, and again, it just might be maybe just kind of figuring out the bays between the battens to to have a little bit more of a relationship to the way the windows are spaced, or something like that, or the way the window trim is. Like the way the window trim is, there's no sill or like skirt, which is fine. I mean, there doesn't have to be, but I can't tell if the way the window is trimmed out is just the same piece of vertical batten just framing the window. And if that's the case, then I feel like there could be a more interesting way to kind of integrate that with the grid of the vertical pieces,
I really agree with you. I mean, this is popping for me now. I'm also questioning something that I didn't on first pass, which is I'm not sure why these windows are divided.
Yeah, and also I'm not sure if what the operation is. Are they push out casements?
I don't know.
I was trying to find, because that's, which are great windows, but that's another thing too. Like, if a lot of these windows are open and they're push out casements, it's a strong look to the building, to have all these window frames kind of, projecting from the face of the building, which is, I mean, again, I don't have an issue with that, but I think it would be good to know, instead of that being a surprise. Oh, like when all these windows are open, you get all these projections out, So I think that would be helpful to know, like, what the operation is of the casements.
Good.
I've got just a wondering about this, is that the parking lot seems to lead one to a staircase. There's the small door on the ground level, but it seems the main entry is up the stairs, which is, I mean, I guess maybe there's parking, handicapped accessible parking on, as you enter or something, but that seems, unless this building is retrofitted with an elevator, you would not have people entering on the ground floor, or it's not handicapped accessible.
I think the elevator would be the only way around that, Steve. That's a good point.
Which in a small building like this is, I mean, that's a lot of investment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, given the roof too, it would probably have to be like a hydraulic elevator. I mean, there's no room for a bulkhead or anything.
Yeah. This is all feeling like a consultation. I mean, I think what we should do is tell the planning board we have a number of questions. There are elements of this design that seem to work well, but we would recommend a consultation. I would also like to know, and I'd love to know, Shane, if this is a really expensive ask or something easily done, but can an architect pretty easily take a photo of the streetscape and superimpose the design in a way that comes close to representing how this design would look next to its neighbors?
Yeah, I mean, so where I work, we always outsource that because it does take a few, even if you're good at that, it takes a few hours, like a few billable hours. I mean, usually like we budget, I think around like $300 to $500 for like a photorealistic rendering like that. And again, we outsource it. But I mean, that's something, Tom, I know we were talking about the, kind of like the standards of the NYC LPC, but that's something that they always ask for. And it really is helpful to see.
Okay, and it's called a photorealistic rendering?
Yeah, so and if we were to do that, if we were to request that, I feel like it might be helpful to like request a specific angle, instead of, because it does, even just doing one of those, and, it takes a few hours of billable time, maybe a couple $100, which is not nothing. So we would want to make sure that, we're communicating what angle we want to see in that, instead of, oh, well, we were really hoping to see X, Y, and Z. I just feel like a very clear communication of what, what we would like to see in that would be helpful.
I think that's really good advice. Does anybody feel like you have a strong sense of what angle you'd most want to see?
Probably a frontal, a view from Main Street, maybe from the other side of the street, so that we would be able to see both buildings next to.
I think that, to me, is the payoff too. Maybe with just a slight angle. I'm thinking, sort of
north by northwest.
Yeah. Yes, correct. From the northwest. Capturing, so right next to it is a pretty tall multifamily house, very traditional. And then to its east is a, is that all? No, it's not Ulster Savings yet. It's the the chiropractor's office. Oh, no, sorry. It's the youth center, isn't it?
I'm going to show you Camilla's second photo. I have to rotate it, but is this the building you're thinking about?
That was the first one I mentioned.
Okay.
So
that's a Leonard Loza rental, right?
That's correct. Yeah. And that's kind of the angle that I was thinking, but maybe from across the street, so that we get kind of the highest part of the proposed building next to this building and catch a little bit of the one to the east.
And the one to the east is the proportions of that house are very similar to 218. It's a one-story, relatively small building.
Yeah, I think it's also I believe it's a chiropractor's office and maybe a couple of professional offices, one story. I don't think it's an unreasonable ask, Shane. I mean, we probably would never do this to, a couple who owned a house who wanted to put on a deck. Like, that just seems like we're asking too much. But this is a pretty significant renovation that's throwing up definitely some design questions. I mean, I think I'm back to that northeast. Let's see, Val, could you scroll? I'm sorry, could you go back to the, yep, it's basically the west elevation. Actually, north and west elevations is what I was mostly thinking. That's a lot of glass. And I can't think of anything in New Paltz that looks remotely like that. So not to say that it can't happen. It is kind of an eclectic part of the village, but I think it would be good to invite them to come and explain the design and maybe hear some of these thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, and also, I mean, clearly they've already built a 3D model, so that's actually half the work. So, I mean, it's just a matter of, you know, kind of finding the right angle to meet the photo and doing the Photoshop work. So
Good.
it's actually even less work than I would have initially thought. But I think it's
Good,
one of those things too. Like once they see this building in the context of the, you know, of the neighboring buildings, they might notice that, in my opinion, those two neighbor buildings, you know, they have, you know, that it's a little more thought out, the you know, just the path of the running trim, and you know, as they're doing that work, they might just notice, you know, well, maybe we should think about this a little more thoughtfully. So, you know, it's one of those things, like as you're doing that type of work, you notice other things too that, you know, that might help and aid the design. So I think it's a good exercise either way.
Great. Good. Well, let me do that then. I will send a memo to the planning board highly recommending that they schedule with us in April. And I'll list the photorealistic rendering from the Northwest, and I can be specific about that. Some comments about the casements, the fenestration at the front, the trim, Steve's question, which I forgot to write down, but access from parking. You know, I feel excited about this because I think there's good potential to improve that little section of Main Street. I just don't know if this is the design or this is quite the design. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that far off from something that could be pretty nice, but
Right.
we're definitely not there yet, but
That's my feeling.
it's not terribly awful. I mean, this is my first time seeing it, so I didn't see the previous designs, but you know, it's in the general direction, but there definitely needs to be some tweaking, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, that's great.
So sorry, one last question. So Tom, you may have already answered this in our email exchanges, but for a project of this size, would the applicants be required to submit, you know, like physical samples of proposed materials?
Well, we usually do ask for that. I mean, sometimes we accept numbers, or we would accept like website descriptions. But it's definitely the case that we've, you know, had people bring samples in. And
yeah, because sorry.
Well, I think this would be a case where, you know, come on, you're doing a major thing here. You know, I guess I'm hesitating, Sean, because Shane, this is a relatively big project for us. I mean, you know, usually we're dealing in much smaller changes.
I mean, just one of the things I'm noticing in the renderings is that, and this just might be a function of the way the 3D model was rendered, but it looks like the roof is a very, very light color. It's kind of whitewashed almost in the image, which is, again, I mean, I'm not saying that that's bad. Like I'm just interested in, you know, like what those two physical samples, the hardy board siding and the roof, actually look like together.
Right.
You know, instead of just kind of putting a lot of faith in these renderings. I think that would be interesting just to see. I mean, it's going to be a lot of material in this building. It's going to be very visible. So just to see, you know, I mean, you can get samples for free. Yep. And then the other thing is the rake board and kind of the soffit detail. Like I can't tell if that's a different color or if it's just rendered in like a shadow. I think it looks like it's supposed to be a little darker, but I think just some clarification on that would be helpful.
That would be really helpful. I agree.
Because the other thing too is I'm not sure what the roof framing is, but just looking at the thickness of the rake board, it looks thinner than if it was, if it's boxing out the roof framing material, it looks kind of spindly. So I'm not sure if that's like a decorative soffit that's kind of built off the front of the building, or if it's actually closing in like the structure of the roof framing. I mean, I think it looks okay. I don't think it's terrible, but I'm just not sure. Like the way it is now, that rake board is very simple. There's not a lot of detail in it, which is fine. I mean, that might be the design intention, but I'm curious as to what, like what kind of thought was put into that deal, because especially given that one, like northerly facade with the, with the tall glass.
Mm-hmm.
There's just not a lot happening in that elevation. And, if the windows, if those big windows are very important to the client, and that's, that's something that's going to stay in the design, then I think the way that the rake board is designed now at that gable end, it could maybe be a little more interesting, or maybe thought out, or maybe that's just how it is, maybe that's what the design is, but you can't really see a lot of the detail in the rendering. But again, maybe that's how it's supposed to be, but it's just, I think a little bit of clarification would be helpful.
Got it. I made that note, and I really agree. I think it's also kind of bucking the roof elements that we see elsewhere on the street. Not that that's the only thing to think about, but it is a thing to think about. Everybody, this sounds good. I will suggest in the strongest terms that they be invited to come to our April meeting, when we'd be happy to go over these and anything else, these things and anything else. When I look at that north and west elevation, I just sort of want to be on a mountaintop somewhere. It just, per se, it's quite a beautiful structure, but I don't know. I don't know if it's a Main Street structure, but we can have that conversation. Why don't we press on, everybody? I'm conscious that we're closing in on 9 o'clock. For number 3, I just wanted to point out that really useful link that Tim sent us, and urge you, if you haven't already gone to it, to read it and take note. And that has something to do with the Ann Oliver House landmarking. I wanted to report that over the last week, I reached out to Steve to see if he'd be willing to kind of take the lead, sort of make it his, part of his portfolio to get the Ann Oliver landmark form started. And Steve, thank you for saying yes. I just feel like, you have such an investment in Wine Coop, and you've been on the committee. You're just kind of the obvious guy to get this started. So unless anybody objects, I'd like to ask Steve to do that, and maybe even think about a draft for next month. I don't know if that, I feel like that might even be possible, because there was so much information in that last grant that could be pulled. And once you see the form, it's not an endless form. We just need a justification, and we need some historical background. If you're willing to give it a try, Steve, Val can get you the designation form, the blank, tonight.
Yeah, I can do that. I forwarded it to Essie already, but I can resend it to you as well.
Okay.
Thank you. That would be very helpful to me, and I will take a crack at it and report back.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think just implicit in what Val said is, Essie probably would be willing to do it herself. She would certainly be willing to work with you, and I think that would be a great partnership to just kind of workshop it together.
I'd be happy to reach out to her. That would be invaluable assistance.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Thanks a lot. So why don't we tentatively plan on looking at that form at whatever stage it is by April 18th, Steve? And that does not have to be completed if time doesn't permit, but see where you get. Sue, anything from Huguenot Street of note?
No, I haven't been really out and about, but I can't say that, no, I haven't heard anything, so.
Okay. And Val, did you hear anything back on 162?
I did, but there really wasn't much of an update. There's still, I think Mon said that the lumber prices have come down, but there's a lot of other issues in terms of cost that would still impact timing. So we agreed to touch base again in about 3 months. So I will be back in touch with him in June to see what has changed.
Okay. There, Shane, this is an example of a really important house on Huguenot Street, and we've had excellent cooperation from the owners who've had some, pretty ambitious plans for the property, but they've always been extremely conscious of historical questions, and they got a shed approved from us was it just before or just as COVID broke, but needed to extend it because the expiration date was coming up, and we did.
Right. So the current expiration date is September 21st, I believe. So we had agreed to touch base about 6 months before that, and we'll touch base again a couple of months prior.
I think that's, excuse me, that sounds great. You might even make a note that maybe that should be on the May or June agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see, 6, 7, and 8 are done. 9, I think everybody saw my email and photo. If anything, that sign in Riften looks like it'll be easier because there's quite a bit less lettering. And Camilla, we all understand what that, we don't understand it as well as you understand it, but we fully understand that it took a lot of work to do that lettering. Camilla, I think we can just maybe make a little subcommittee of you and your husband and I. It seemed to work well last time.
Yes, that's good.
And maybe we should get Chris in on that just to let them know that we're coming to take the sign down. But I'm happy to do the scraping and the priming and even the blue painting if you want. But I can also leave the spray painting to you if you want.
Okay, if you could do the priming, that would be great. Did you do it before we took off the sign or after? Or after? I don't remember.
It was before.
Okay.
And that's because I hadn't thought of the thing that your husband thought of, which is to use the
or the impact drill.
Yeah, the impact drill really did it. I was trying to do it with just a I think I tried a drill and I tried an Allen key and I got nowhere. So I think maybe the easiest thing, Steve, you said do I remember Steve saying that you could take it down or be willing to help?
I'd be willing to help. I have no idea how heavy it is, and I don't want to like drop it. So yeah. I'm happy to meet somebody there and get it off. That's certainly happy to do that, but I just didn't know. I figured it was a lot heavier than it looked.
It is quite heavy. I think we would need 2 people to get it down and up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just in case like law enforcement stops by, I wouldn't want to be seen as taking a historical sign.
Yeah, right. We'd have to come and bail you out, and bail isn't the thing anymore, right? So why don't the 3 of us coordinate at the end of March, early April, and just see if there's a date. I'm happy to go there with you, Steve, and try to remove it, put it in one of our cars. Sure. And then maybe the move, Camilla, is I can bring it here and scrape it, prime it, deliver it to you. And at that point, we'll figure out how to get the paint.
Or would you like to bring it here to our house, since I will be painting it anyway? We could just work on it here. It might be
possibly,
down,
sure, possibly.
hauling it back and forth because it is quite heavy. I don't want.
Okay, yeah. Are you prepared that the scraping is pretty dirty work? I mean, it
That's
kicks up a
fine.
lot of dust.
That's okay. We have masks and I have a wire brush. So.
Okay, I did a lot of it with a wire brush mounted to a drill, actually, and it definitely makes a mess. Okay, well, those details we will work out, but let's try to touch base in, let's say, 2 weeks or so.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, and I can make myself available to help carry it down. I'll just let me know. I can walk over.
Okay. Actually, this one is over in Riften, so you wouldn't want to
Oh.
walk with it.
I'll bike
But,
over.
yeah, thanks, Shane. Yeah, that would be
No
good.
problem.
Thank you.
Okay, that sounds great. Budget's been done. HPC master plan, I just simply don't have the energy to talk about tonight, but let's kick that down to next month. Val, anything you wanted to add on the trainings and professional developments?
No, 2 of them, the B and C, we were on the agenda last month. You've already received some notices about those. And the first one was related to the second of Tim's links. So that's really just directly from the mayor.
Okay, sounds great. Again, if anybody would like to participate, just let us know, and I think there is budget. Annual mailing is completed. Val, thank you so much for that.
Yep, it was a little late this year, but it's done.
It's still plenty of time. Everybody, that's the public agenda. Is there anything we should talk about before we vote to go into executive session? At which point we'll turn off YouTube and stop broadcasting.
Tom, I don't have anything, but you might want to explain to Ava what goes on as a commission goes into executive session.
Oh, that's very good. Yeah. So Ava, executive session is an option. Obviously, we've been holding a public meeting. Anybody from the public could have come and listened, watched, commented, but there's a separate thing called executive session when we talk about personnel issues. That could be somebody's salary, it could be hiring and firing. Those things are protected from public view. So Ava, what's going to happen in a minute or so is we're going to vote to go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter, actually personnel matters. And at that point, I'm going to have to ask you to leave as a member of the public. But that's nothing personal.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Ava, before we do that, is there anything you wanted to know or anything we can answer?
At the moment, no. I might reach out later in the week if that's okay. But it was really interesting observing and seeing the behind the scenes of these decisions. So thank you for letting me sit in.
Yes, of course, you're most welcome. You're a member of the public, and I hope it goes well with your assignment. You're welcome to reach out, whatever is helpful to you.
Thank you so much.
It's a kind of democracy in action. It's kind of a design-based democracy in action because we're all just residents of the community. Shane is an architect, but the rest of us are not. So. Okay, well, Ava, thank you very much for staying with us. Good luck on your assignment.
Thank you again.
Okay, take care. Everybody, so I think if there's nothing else public, is there a motion to enter executive session with the intent that we will come out of executive session but record it rather than reopen public meeting? Everybody good? Motion moved by Camilla.
Second.
Seconded by Steve. Okay. I think I saw Steve first. All those in favor of entering executive session? Okay.
Aye.
Thanks. So Val, if you don't mind turning off YouTube, and then I guess I'll just check.